Goldman Sachs likes to say it's in the risk management business. But did it risk its reputation in saving some executives from higher taxes? Mary Thompson has more. Mary.
Hey there, Michelle. You know, Goldman has been trying to shed its image, deserved or otherwise, as a corporate vampire squid, engaging in a PR campaign aimed at showing Americans how it's a positive contributing force to the economy. But the investment bank's latest move raising some questions about its sincerity about being a good corporate citizen. Despite CEO Lloyd Blankfein's endorsement of the fiscal cliff deal, which raises taxes on the wealthiest Americans this year, Goldman acted alone among the big banks in accelerating pay from past years into 2012 instead of paying it out in 2013 as originally planned. Now, some rivals considered doing something similar but declined to do so, in part fearing a firestorm of public criticism. Goldman's decision means top earners, including its more than 400 partners and other executives, according to a source, will avoid paying the new higher taxes on past pay. Now, this coming when bankers' compensation and banks' reputations are still hot-button issues. One pay consultant told CNBC, "I guess they didn't care," when asked if this would hurt Goldman's image. But reputation strategist Davia Temin sees it differently, telling CNBC, "I wouldn't think they were such good investment bankers if they didn't do something like this." Temin adding that Wall Street in general is known for moves to maximize profitability. Clients ask them to do it for them, and this time, it appears, Goldman did it for its leadership. Back to you, Bill.
All right, Mary, thank you. So was Goldman's move to save its top executives some taxes worth the risk to its recovering reputation? That's the question at hand.
Andrew Stoltmann says it's moves like this that give the bank a bad name. But Fusion Analytics' Josh Brown says the company's doing exactly what they should be, protecting executives from higher taxes here. Andrew, make your case.
It's a horrible decision. I mean, at a time when Goldman Sachs needs to be mending its reputation by doing this, especially with the Wall Street Journal article where Lloyd Blankfein argued that, hey, these higher taxes, it's a good thing. Optically, it looks horrible. Reputationally, it's horrible. It's just a bad decision. I think that's part of the reason why none of the other banks did it.
Josh?
Incorrect. The reason none of the other banks did it is because all of the other banks are client-facing. Goldman Sachs alone, among the largest 6 banks in the country, are not client-facing when you're talking about retail people. They actually have an image to uphold in front of institutions that they really do business with. And institutions would look at this decision and say, hey, smart move. There were 1,000 special dividends paid this year ahead of the fiscal cliff by other companies. Last year, only 500. Every industry, every smart company did something along these lines. So I really don't think that you would expect Goldman to do something otherwise.
That's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard.
One of the dumbest things you've ever heard?
Andrew first.
Yeah, it is. I'll tell you why. Because you're talking about $65 million acceleration of bonuses. You're talking about an incremental tax difference of 5%. So you're talking about $3.2 million. When you have a bank or a brokerage firm that relies on its reputation, you can't have a situation where you're basically shortchanging, at least that's the perception, taxpayers. It's stupid.
Hey, can I help you out with something, though? That's 2012 pay that they earned, 2012 compensation being taxed within the letter of the law at 2012 tax levels. Why would they? Why would they wait?
Cost.
Josh, two things.
What's the cost?
Josh,
no one's going to talk about this tomorrow.
Josh, the spirit of the question is A, isn't it hypocrisy when Lloyd Blankfein says, oh, we all got to give, and then he avoids taxes? Second, I understand that a company absolutely has to do the best it should for shareholders. So you want your corporation to pay as little in taxes as is legally justified so your shareholders have more money. What is it? Why do you have to protect an executive?
Well, so let me get the first one. Is it hypocrisy for Lloyd to say we have to give? He never said we had to give. What he said was that taxes probably do need to go up, but at the same time, so does spending has to go down. But that has nothing to do with compensation that's been earned in the prior year.
I think it has everything to do with his compensation when he's saying that people have to pay more in taxes, and then he has moved compensation. Every other year, he would get his compensation in the following year, except this year, right? And you know that the greatest crime in America, the greatest crime in America is hypocrisy.
No, it's not. The greatest crime in America is probably murder. But hang on.
You can actually recover from murder, I think, more than you can from hypocrisy in the United States. Who's the famous guy who's a boxing manager who killed somebody, right?
You're just playing devil's advocate. I cannot believe you of all people
he doesn't want to address this idea. It's totally.
Andrew,
believe me, you know where I stand on most issues. This is totally hypocritical.
Andrew, did Goldman break a law by doing this?
Well, the good news for Goldman Sachs is they didn't break the law, but given their past behavior, more so than any other firm, I think they have to toe the company line and do the right thing. You're talking about a firm that took $10 billion. You're talking about a firm that took $10 billion of TARP money, billion dollars. You're talking about a firm that was fined $550 million by the SEC for the Abacus deal.
What does that have to do with
a firm that got a backdoor bailout?
It's the American way to avoid taxes, isn't it? I mean, if you could, wouldn't you avoid paying $3.2 million? In
taxes on 2012 compensation in the year 2012. They're not avoiding taxes.
They reduced their tax bite, Josh.
But remember, Bill, I'm not a firm. I'm not a company that took $10 billion of taxpayer money and had a hand in partially melting down the global worldwide economy. Goldman is different.
They're back on their feet again. That's irrelevant at this point.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think if you're looking at a company that did something the last couple of years, like taking $10 billion of TARP taxpayer
Andrew,
money,
I have a question for you. I have a question for you. Let's say this was the Hershey Corporation, and they didn't take any TARP money.
Completely different.
And they're not investment bankers, and they're not seen as a vampire squid, but they're actually a company that makes chocolate. Why would it be different if they decided to pay bonuses for 2012 a month early? How would that be completely different?
Because, number one, they didn't take taxpayer money. Number two, they weren't fined $550 million.
What is taking tax money? What is taking taxpayer money have to do with anything?
Because the CEO of Hershey's did not come on CNBC and sit down with Steve Leisman and do a big old sit-down talking about everybody's got to come together and everybody's got to give. Somebody's got to pay more in taxes and everything else.
I'm stunned at you that you're making that statement.
It's totally hypocritical.
You guys had a parade of CEOs from every industry in the country come on and do the rise above stuff, and every single one of them agreed spending has to go down and taxes probably need to go up.
Okay, so that's the spirit of your justification, that because they didn't cut spending, it's okay that he avoided taxes.
Well, look, no, it's not okay, and no one's avoiding taxes. I'm not saying that at all.
That's just
what I'm saying is that it's 2012 compensation.
Exactly
why not pay them at 2012 tax rates?
All right, so they should do that every year. Bonuses should be given out every year in December. So from now on, all bonuses go out in December.
Why? Right? Why from now on? Why can't they just do it this year? Because it's what's best for their employees.
Michelle, if I can jump in, I think
Andrew, you and I never agree. Don't get used to this, okay?
We never do. Usually you're taking my head off. I like it. but really, I think, on a more serious point, I really think Goldman Sachs, given what we know in terms of Dodd-Frank and the negotiations that are going on right now with respect to the Volcker rule, I think Goldman Sachs has to be minding its P's and Q's and doing everything by the book and not giving regulators and people like me more reason to take a tax on Goldman Sachs. I just think it's a bad PR
Goldman
move.
Sachs common stock raised higher this year. Profits were up. The company made money. The employees made money. They're getting paid based on the tax rate that exists in the United States for this year. I don't see where the controversy is.
Downtown Josh Brown, thank you.